Alright, so we're back with the Jeep here. I don't remember where we left off, but been working on a little bit here and there. Pulled the tank, and they had actually replaced the pump with the newer style that runs at about 60 psi. So I just connected the that was like a rubber flex line, EFI line that has the clips in it from the sending unit pump and sending unit assembly to the hard line up, and then I put the fitting that puts it to a -6 on the frame rail, and then the same thing up here on the fuel rail to a -6, and then made a hose to connect those. Went over to wiring. They did not have the connection for the automatic transmission, and then I had to come in here and wire. That's keyed power that turns on, powers everything over here for your keyed power, and then the heavy red wires. These two heavy red wires go to the battery, or constant power. And then I had to actually provide and pin the wires right there for the fuel pump. So again, constant power, which they could have got from over here when they wired it, and then you just did the output. I don't know why they didn't do that, but anyway, I got that wired up. So now the fuel pump turns on when you turn the key on, and when it sees crank rotation. And I got this is the transmission harness going down, and then I got to figure out, this is their under dash wiring. So I've got to, I'm sure one of them's the brake pedal that unlocks the torque converter when you come to a stop, and then the pedal and all that stuff I gotta do. And then we already ran into an issue down there. Speaking of transmission plug, that's the second one he's done that has leaked like that. Put a gallon in it, tried to crank it up. It cranked and sputtered and shut off. And then I put some more fluid in it, and heard it running on the floor, and the daggum connector, you can see all the damn fluid down there. That connector, I don't know, like I say, this is the second one he's done for me that connector has leaked. But the first time it happened, I was able to fix it, but this time, I mean, it's, brand new fluid. Just put brand new fluid in it, and now it's all over my damn floor. So not happy about that. Went through this connector. The green and white wire was the fuel pump wire, so I just cut it out and tied my wire into it. I got keyed power source that's hot and start as well, and then the constant power for my fuel pump. And yes, I will clean all this up. This is, getting everything ready. So the crank up and run part, allegedly all this was ready to go, but I pulled the ECU file up, and sure enough, VATS was not turned off, so I had to license it and turn off VATS, and then go through and do the normal stuff I do to them in HP tuners. So but I was gonna have to license it anyway, because he's wanting to put a cam in it, and but I wanted to get everything together and hear it run. And then we'll have exhaust on the way, because right now it's just those open little header things. And so once that gets here, I'll build an exhaust for it, and lay the old drive shaft in there and try to build around it until we get the real drive shafts. But and it had flex injectors in it, and it's a 05 ECU, but the flow rate for the injectors was wrong. So I had noticed they had cut the connectors from the Multec connector to the what are those, EV6. So I did that, and I noticed it smelled rich. So I looked at the injector data, and sure enough, it was not flex. So I had to change the injector data from another file that I had that had these style injectors. And when I had the fuel rail off, I actually flowed through all of them, and surprisingly, they all actually flowed and they weren't hung open or stuck shut. So I was very surprised about that. But it cranked right up once I got the vats turned off. It cranked right up, and then shut off as soon as it didn't realize the vats was there. So was happy about that. It's always good to hear it crank and run. Make sure, so everything. You're close at least. But now, it'll be tidying all this up, and then, like I say, he wants to do a cam in it, so, hopefully there'll be enough room for the cam to come out the front without the radiator and all, so, I didn't want to put coolant and all that stuff in there, and, or water, with it being 17 degrees here today. So, I just want to crank it up, hear it run, and then try to make sure that fuel pump was going to work for us. Like I say, then we run into the transmission. That just really doesn't make me happy. But then I'll work on the gauges and stuff like that, and just start trying to tidy everything up and get as far as I can with it, until my drive shaft guy can recover from his eye surgery and all, and then hopefully get the drive shafts in this thing. And once he gets around to getting the drive shafts for me, then hopefully this thing will be ready to go, and we just put the drive shafts in and we're ready to go. Another thing is, I'd mentioned this thing has a Ford 8.8, so allegedly it has a 410, so I'm going to have to roll it and count it, and then check the front, because that is one thing that I learned one time. I had a 78 Ford, big Ford. It was on 44 by 18.5 inch tires, and had a 351M or 400M or something in it with a manual transmission, and somebody had put a Dana 60 rear end in it, 8 lug, and then the front was still a Dana 44 or 5 lug. And being young and dumb, I didn't think about it, put it in 4-wheel drive, and then tore up everything in the truck forward of the front drive shaft, because they were vastly different gear ratios. So we'll double check that here, make sure that that is indeed a 410 or whatever it is, and then we'll verify what this is, so at least we'll know if we can put it in 4-wheel drive, and if not, what gear ratios we'll need to order for the front to make it where we can have 4-wheel drive, or just make sure you're in real slick mud when you put it in 4-wheel drive, so they can turn at different speeds. But anyway, that's the update on this thing. I hadn't really spent a whole lot of time on it, just kind of working on it here and there. Really should be further along with it, but that's, at least it's running now, and we can, I can tidy all this, tidy up the wiring and make it look good, and get everything I need from the Jeep, and then try to figure out these gauges, see what all they need to run. And they're going to have their own sensors as well, so we will have the GM sensors to the GM computer, and then the sending units, which hopefully are in those Mopar boxes, if the gauges came with the sending units, which I don't know, I haven't looked, but that would be nice. But I know in cars that's not how that works. You buy the gauge, then you got to buy the sending unit, and then you got to buy everything, every little piece that goes along with it, and get nickel and dimed. But like I say, I'm glad to hear it run, and got to drop this transmission pan and figure out why it's pouring, and go from there.